synapse at the axon terminal, stimulating neurotransmitter vesicles to dump their contents. So, when does an impulse stop? First, if the signal is weak and too few neurotransmitters bind to receptors, the receiving neuron won't fire an impulse. Second, certain types of neurotransmitters are inhibitory, like the ones shown here. Inhibitory neurotransmitters stop nerve impulses. The neurons presented here are just a small part of a vast system. In elaborate networks, neurons in the brain work together to control sophisticated functions such as learning, mood, and memory. In these networks, one neuron may connect with up to 1,000 others.
Okay, happy. All right. Okay. What drugs would you like to know about?
Yes.
Okay. So this is going to tell you about how drugs, various different drugs, your type of drugs, not my type of drugs, affect the passage of impulses across neurons. Okay, right. So let's go. Jenna, which mouse?
The one on the couch.
The one on the couch. Okay, so this mouse is on
Before
heroin.
neuron enters the system, inhibitory neurotransmitters are active in the synapse. These neurotransmitters inhibit dopamine from being released.
Okay. Do you need to go back to hear that? Okay. So do you get what this is? This is obviously a synaptic knob. Okay. And the particular neurotransmitter in those vesicles is dopamine. And they're talking about an inhibitory neurotransmitter from a different neuron that is able to actually block the passage of the dopamine neurotransmitters. Okay, so before heroin enters the system, inhibitory neurotransmitters, so that's these little triangles here, are present in the synapse. These prevent dopamine from being released. Okay, so they prevent this normal release of neurotransmitters in this particular case. And this is the norm. This is before heroin. Okay. With
When the
heroin,
body's natural opiates activate opiate receptors, the release of inhibitory neurotransmitters is shut down. Without inhibition, dopamine can be released.
okay. So what that is saying is naturally within the body, there are things called opiate receptors, and they prevent the release of these inhibitory ones, these little blue triangles, okay, because they block the passage of those little blue ones, okay, which allows dopamine to pass out, which means that normally people can be happy because dopamine is able to pass out from one neuron to cross to the next neuron. But now we've got heroin.
Heroin mimics natural opiates and binds to opiate receptors, turning off dopamine inhibition. Dopamine is allowed to flood the synapse, producing immediate feelings of sedation and well-being.
Okay, so what heroin does is it prevents these inhibitors from passing out. You actually started with the most complicated one. Okay, the rest of them are much easier. Okay, so what heroin does is it blocks the passage of these normal, natural inhibitory neurotransmitters. And so dopamine is able to be released all the time, and that gives a really good feeling. Okay, that doesn't mean you can take heroin.
Neurons with opiate receptors are in parts of the brain responsible for the transmission of pain signals, stress response, and emotional attachment. Our body's opiates are natural painkillers, effective when we have sustained massive injury. This is why morphine, a drug related to heroin, is used as a painkiller.
So ma'am, why is it bad for our body?
Because it's addictive.
So then what happens, like, I don't understand why that's bad. What happens? Like,
Oh, am I looking forward to parenting now? My daughter Jenna says she doesn't understand why drugs are bad.
no, I understand that they're bad, but I don't understand, like, what they do.
Like what it does to the brain.
How does it hurt the brain?
I would say just because it's addictive. Okay, so then it becomes, you need more and more and more of it, and it becomes costly, etc. Okay, right, can we get rid of this mouse? Alex, what do you want?
No, I think the fat one closest to the edge of the cage.
This one,
No,
this one.
that one,
Ecstasy. Do you guys? Is
Serotonin
ecstasy still
transporters are
available?
responsible
Wait,
for
stop,
removing
wait.
serotonin
Wait.
molecules from the synaptic cleft.
Okay, no, I think we should go right. Wait, is ecstasy still a thing? I never hear about it anymore. Is it? Okay, right. We'll put your ecstasy mouse in there, check. Okay.
Serotonin transporters are responsible for removing serotonin molecules from the synaptic cleft.
So this is
after
after serotonin has crossed. This is talking about getting serotonin back into the presynaptic neuron. So serotonin transporters are responsible for removing, so after serotonin has gone into the synaptic gap, serotonin transporters are responsible for picking up the serotonin that's just floating around and taking them back to the presynaptic neuron. Okay, all right. Okay.
Ecstasy mimics serotonin and is taken up by serotonin transporters. In fact, ecstasy is more readily taken up than serotonin itself.
Okay, all right. So it's taken up into the presynaptic neuron, and it is taken up more easily than serotonin actually is.
This interaction with ecstasy alters the transporter. The transporter becomes temporarily confused and starts to do its job in reverse. The transporter starts transporting serotonin out of the cell. The excess serotonin becomes trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, it binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell.
Does that make sense? Okay. So instead of that serotonin being taken up into the presynaptic cell, so much of it comes out that it just binds for forever to these receptors, hence the constant feeling of
Ecstasy
well-being.
affects serotonin pathways responsible for mood, sleep, perception, and appetite. Ecstasy also indirectly interacts with the reward pathway. The excess serotonin stimulates milder release of dopamine along the reward pathway, giving ecstasy slightly addictive properties.
Okay.
Ma'am, so this
No, wait. What? No, wait. Can't stop it. Go.
if you depress, do those receptors not work?
It could be not enough neurotransmitter, it could be the receptors don't work, it could be the taking up of that neurotransmitter to recycle it, it could be a whole lot of different things. Simply which mouse would you like?
The white one in the middle.
This one.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's great.
Dopamine transporters are responsible for removing dopamine from the synaptic cleft. Because meth mimics dopamine, it is taken into the cell by the dopamine transporters.
Okay, so this seems to work quite a lot like So this is meth being taken up into the presynaptic cell, okay? And
Once inside the cell, meth enters the dopamine vesicles, forcing the dopamine molecules out. The excess dopamine in the cell causes the transporters to start working in reverse, actively pumping dopamine out of the cell and into the synapse. The excess dopamine becomes trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, it binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell. Meth is highly addictive because it works directly on the brain's reward pathway, making the user feel intense pleasure and exhilaration.
see, it's just like biology. It's amazing. It makes you feel so good. Chloe, which music do you want?
The light brown one. Yeah.
You just dropped the ball.
Inhibitory neurotransmitters called GABA are active throughout the brain. These neurotransmitters act to control neural activity along many brain pathways. When
Okay.
GABA binds to its receptor, the cell is less likely to fire.
So this is very much like your one, Alex. Or was it you, Jen? That had the oak on the couch.
I think it was that was Jen.
Okay, all right. So under normal circumstances, there are inhibitors, inhibitory neurotransmitters. So they're the little purple triangles, and they block the release of, I would imagine this is dopamine. So this is real life. You're not constantly releasing dopamine, so you don't feel good 24/7.
Meanwhile, in another area of the brain, another neurotransmitter called glutamate acts as the brain's general-purpose excitatory neurotransmitter. When alcohol enters the brain, it delivers a double sedative punch. First, it interacts with GABA receptors to make them even more inhibitory. Second, it binds to glutamate receptors, preventing the glutamate from exciting the cell. Alcohol particularly affects areas of the brain involved in memory formation, decision-making, and impulse control.
Okay. Okay with that one.
So, ma'am, does it block the dopamine from?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that it's dopamine. So whatever this neurotransmitter is that would pass that impulse across. Under normal circumstances, these inhibitors prevent the neurotransmitter from passing.
Meanwhile, in another area of the brain, another neurotransmitter
These
called
ones
glutamate
also.
acts as the brain's general-purpose excitatory neurotransmitter. When alcohol enters the brain, it delivers a double sedative punch. First, it interacts with GABA receptors to make them even more inhibitory.
So this neurotransmitter can't pass.
Second, it binds to glutamate receptors, preventing the glutamate from exciting the cell.
And this neurotransmitter can't pass. So two different kinds of neurotransmitters that would transmit impulses across are not allowed to transmit impulses across. And then it says to
Alcohol
area
particularly
of the
affects
brain.
areas of the brain involved in memory formation, decision-making, and impulse control.
Now, shouldn't alcohol then make you sad? Is this blocking the...
Quite often it does. In the long term it does. It's actually a depressant. So it inhibits decision making and it inhibits controlling impulses. That's the whole thing why alcohol makes people do stupid things. And that's why they want to ban it again under level 3. Okay. But now we've lost our child.